Hey Hardies, I'm Casey.
And I'm Cammie. Welcome to the Hardies Hotline,
your connection to Hope Valley.
We want to give a shout out to our friends at Edify Films, where you can get fabulous When Calls the Heart merchandise, like my hat.
And you can also get a fun When Calls the Heart game from our friends at the Bundle Game. Be sure to use discount code Hardies Hotline for 10% off.
We've got a fabulous episode for you today, full of laughter, tears, and heart.
So take a walk with us to Hope Valley and let's dive in. Welcome back, Hardies! Cammie and I are joined by a very special guest. And if you are watching on the YouTube, you may recognize her if you watched Hallmark Drama's Christmas Cookie Matchup. That's kind of a mouthful. And I would love to introduce you to our special guest host, Anna Simonides. Hi,
Anna. Hi, Anna.
Welcome to the podcast. And welcome Kevin McGarry to the podcast because he's like basically right behind you.
Over the shoulder.
Immortalized on the wall for forever.
Yes. So fun. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and let us get to know you? And for those of you who did not watch Christmas Cookie Matchup, you should. I don't know if it re-airs during maybe a Christmas in July or whatever, but I thought it was so fun just watching the When Calls the Heart stars matched up with these bakers, and then they're making all these cookies, and it's like just so happy. And from our perspective, no drama. But Anna, you can tell us a little more about that.
Yes, for sure. So like you said, I'm Anna Simonides. I'm 24 years old. I am from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where I own my own bakery. I've had my own storefront for 4 years, but I've been baking since I was probably 8 years old. I've just always loved being in the kitchen. And we're primarily like an allergy-friendly bakery. So we're 100% gluten-free, and then we do a lot of vegan, keto, paleo options. We really focus on catering to people with dietary restrictions. So being on Christmas Cookie Matchup was crazy because I got to bake quote unquote regular things for the first time in so long.
Left field.
Yes. Actually, it was definitely, there were some times where I was like, oh my goodness, like this texture is different, or but in the end, definitely hands down, probably the best experience of my entire life, a true gift from God. And I know that for a fact because there was over 3,000 applicants. And the fact that I was selected just by randomly submitting an online, form is just amazing to me. I was also the youngest person there by 10 years, which was kind of intimidating. But just literally so cool. We had no idea that the actors or actresses were even going to be there. When I signed up, I was just excited to be in a competition, much less go to LA on a baking show, much less meet like actual stars. It could just keep snowballing, honestly, like the awe and amazement I had in those 10 days.
Well, and stars that you recognized because I think you were the only one who knew who they were.
Yes, but I will say that my enthusiasm made up for the lack of others' knowledge because I was so over the top jazzed that everyone walked in. And it was the funniest thing. I just remember they walk in and it's just one, and then there's another. And I couldn't believe, I thought maybe it would stop after Aaron or Pascal, and they just kept on coming. And I was like, wow, what is this? So it was literally the coolest thing.
Party overload.
That's exactly what it felt like. My brain was kind of melting. I was also just so excited. And, I knew that there were cameras catching me be a dork, and I just couldn't help myself. I was like, well, we're going to go all out because this is how we feel. So
this is raw. This is real good drama.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember watching you and I was like, oh, that girl is a fan. I could just tell by her reaction. Was it hard to just be like, okay, Anna, stay cool. Well, because that would have been me. I probably would have just fallen, my mouth would have just dropped on the floor and I probably would have been doing this shaky thing.
Yeah. And honestly, I think the fact that I was even in Hollywood, at a competition already had me doing the shaky thing. So at that point I was just okay, we gotta calm down. We gotta temper ourselves. And then they walk out. I'm like, just kidding.
And now I'm going to be partnered with Kevin McGarry.
Oh my goodness. That was insane when they started drawing names. I was actually well, not drawing names, but picking us, I should say, I was so nervous because I don't know, it was just like, it was all happening so fast and I just hadn't expected any of it, much less to be baking with someone. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, you're so cool. Like, I've watched you growing up since high school. And this is like one of my favorite shows. And then you're like, oh, and by the way, like, this person depends on you winning $25,000. Ta-da. You know, like, it was just so much in those like 5 minutes that went down, but it was fantastic for sure. And I lucked out. I got the best one, 100%.
Tell us a little bit more about working with Kevin. And so did they shoot it in order with the matching and the picking of the people? Because if I'm remembering correctly, you guys baked cookies and then they picked the one they liked best or something like that?
Yes. And so that's why it was so nerve-wracking, because it was kind of like, you weren't sure like how it was going to line, which it actually worked out perfectly. Like, everyone's taste buds were very like individual and unique. I asked the actors later and they're like, no, like, we all got who we wanted to work with.
Oh, that's
cool. And they didn't even know that we were attached to our cookies per se, but they all got the cookie they wanted. And then it all worked out, just the pairings really well, I think. So yeah. But yeah, so it was super, super crazy. Kevin was just, I say I got the best one, not because he was the best baker by any means. Actually, he just put up a blooper reel on his Instagram today. And if you go watch it, you will see why I said that. There was some counting issues and such things.
Okay. As soon as this recording is over, we are heading to Instagram.
Yes. It was so funny that he put it up because we had this interview. And there was no reason, but yeah, he just posted one of our bloopers and it like, I'm like, okay, count to 12, Kevin, count to 12. And I'm like gone. And he's like on camera and he's like 8. He's like, shoot, I think I'm at 8. Shoot, I lost count. It's so funny. And then it shoots and then you can see like a fast forward to us like mixing our doughs together. He's like, one dough is too soft and one's too stiff. Someone put too little flour or too much. And I'm like, that's because you miscounted. Anyway, it was so funny. Just, he was a trip to work with. And all that said, despite the lack of quote unquote knowledge, because I will say Pascal and Kevin definitely were seasoned bakers or people in the kitchen.
Right.
He really had the most heart. Like, he was so determined to help me win. I would say like Kevin and Pascal, and Kevin were really, really invested. Like Erin too, because she's competitive. Like, everyone was really into it. But I don't know, there was something about that left half of the room. We were all just like hustling, everyone on those stations. So, but yeah, Kevin like picked up on so many things too. Like by day 3, things that like, you know, and on the first day he was like, am I doing this right? He was just like going off, and I needed that. Like, I needed someone to just take charge. So he's got the best personality for sure.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh,
I interviewed him last year and I was in stitches.
Yes.
He's
hilarious.
So funny. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's my biggest, I think that like, if I had any regret from the show, it'd be that you guys couldn't see like the other 95% of what went down. Because you know, there's only so much that can be shown in media, and just like, oh my gosh, he was so funny. We just laughed the whole time. Like, I feel like you don't see any of that because they're showing drama, like it's Hallmark drama, but literally we were just crack ups. Like, I think we had 20 inside jokes by the end of day 1. I'm like, okay, who is this?
Gosh.
Yeah. So,
well, and it's his birthday this week. So
yes.
That makes it even better that you're here on the show with us today.
To celebrate him no matter what.
Yeah, perfect. We'll send you a virtual cake, Kevin.
Yes.
A virtual gluten-free vegan cupcake.
Oh, too fun. Do you have any behind the scenes funny blooper moments, maybe that Kevin didn't share, maybe at the expense of Kevin, just for fun? Besides the lack of being able to count to 12.
Oh my goodness. Poor guy. I think there was just so much pressure that first day too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Let's see. Funny
because you guys filmed for 5 days straight and then they aired once a week.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and it was like elimination. So the longer you were in, obviously the longer you stayed to film.
Right.
So, that's such a good question. You know, like there are so many funny things, and I I wish I could sit here and just like, I think I have more bloopers on my phone. I should just go watch them and get back to you. I like, honestly.
Tell us one of the inside jokes. Tell us one of the inside jokes that you guys got.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So Hecker's Flower is definitely going to be the primary one. That ended up being like our team name. We dubbed ourselves Hecker's Flower because so there's a lot of products that go into this baking show. What was Wilton products, Sprinkle Pop, Challenger Butter, like Hecker's Flour. So people who had donated, KitchenAid let us use their mixer, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so we were supposed to kind of like show the products when we could, or like showcase them as we were baking. So like if we were using butter, you just would leave the box on the table inside of the camera, like that sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Just to help Hallmark out. And so Hecker's Flour was one of the brands. And we weren't even sure if that was like one of the official sponsor brands, but that for some reason, we just like, Kevin loved Hecker's Flour. And so he was always just like 12 cups of Hecker's fine flour. Look at this Hecker's flour. And would keep like pausing the baking to like show the camera the flour bag. I'm like, Kevin, we got to work. But it was so
We're on a time limit here, bud.
Yes. Oh, here's another really funny thing. Okay. So at one point, Kevin's like, do you have one of those things that like the chefs use to look more professional? I'm like, what? He was like, the things that, it's on their shoulder. I'm like a towel? He's like, yeah, like a towel. And there was one literally on the table in front of us. I'm like, yeah, there's one right there. And he's like, oh yeah. He was like, it was had and it was disguised. He like slings it over his shoulder and like hits me in the face. So good in the moment. I think that's actually on the bloopers on Instagram. If you go watch, that one's there. But just like that was like every single 5 minutes was like something to that level of just like, you are so precious. Like you are so funny. So, yeah, total fan. It felt like working with like the cool older brother I never had. So,
that's fine.
Yeah.
So I think it goes without saying that you are Team Nathan.
Yeah, I would say so. I think there's qualities to both of them. Honestly, and this is terrible of me to say, but I'm at the point where I'm like, is someone else just going to show up and take Elizabeth? Like, is that what's going down right now? Because like, you guys, like clearly something's not jiving, but no, I would say that Nathan, I know that people have the whole hesitation because he's a Mountie and whatever. But I think he needs Elizabeth in a way that Lucas doesn't. Mm-hmm. And I definitely feel for that. Also, just like Allie is so precious and like their bond there. And I think that, especially as we found out from last night's episode, Nathan could open up more and have a happier, more bubbly demeanor. Mm-hmm. I think what Elizabeth would help draw that out. And I think he did have that before, all of this drama happened. So yeah, I'd just be interested to see. I mean, I love Lucas too. He's really precious. He goes the extra mile, but Nathan does have like that, rugged, solid guy aspect to him too. So
yeah.
And all that being said, I just feel like Nathan is hard for me to love, even though he is my choice. He's hard because now that I've met Kevin, Nathan doesn't do Kevin justice, and that Kevin is like so fantastic. He would have gotten Elizabeth 2 seasons ago. It's kind of like, what are you guys, like the producers who are writing this script do not know. Like Kevin is such a good actor because I don't know how he can play down himself so much where he can be as like low-key and dull as Nathan is. Yes, he's like, they're selling him short. I'm like, do you know who Kevin is? Like, do you know how cool he is? And like, anyway, his character is lost on me. And I will say that I am very close with one of the producers from Christmas Cookie Matchup who worked with us. And she says the same thing. She totally agrees with me. So.
Okay.
She wasn't necessarily like a One Calls a Heart fan. She went back and watched it retroactively. And just to kind of see, and she was like, oh my goodness. She was like, Kevin's character does nothing for me. Like after knowing Kevin, what are they doing? So yeah, he's the real deal. That's for sure.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Kevin McGarry is the real deal and is quite a riot. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Oh, man. Would you say that Chris is closer to his character, or is he like also super goofy? I mean, I know you didn't really work with him, and I think he got eliminated a little sooner than you.
But he was still around.
Yeah, I would say Chris is kind of quieter. For sure. He and Kevin have like a hilarious camaraderie though. Oh my goodness. Like sometimes you would walk by and they'd be like in the corner with like the shells of all the candy, just like eating candy while like the bakers are like, working. Like we sent them to go get something and, Chris would be like, hey, Kevin, you want some? They'd be like, I don't even know. I can't remember what kind of candy it was. But yeah, they definitely have like this fun brother bond for sure.
Yeah.
Hysterical.
But yeah, I would say that Chris and Lucas do mimic each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In ways.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's kind of what my assumption was, having seen some interviews with
I would say,
Chris and stuff.
Yeah. I interviewed him. I interviewed him as well. And he was very polite, very sweet, but it took a little bit to get him talking. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also just, I think the most striking to me is like Chris is an artist. Like we started calling him Crafty Chris. That was his name on the show because he blows my mind. Some of the detail that he was doing with Jody, who is his baker, just like on their fondant and stuff. He's a true literal artist, and like the charcuteries he makes, he has got really good like taste in wine. Like he and Jody would talk about like all that, and so you could just tell he does have that very refined aspect to him that his character does on the show. Like he really is a gentleman, and he really, has that breeding to him and that appreciation for the arts and like nice things. And so that I feel like was the biggest connection for me. Personality wise, I don't know so much because I really didn't work with him, but I will say like I did catch on to that, and that was super impressive. So.
Oh, interesting. Well, we could talk lots more about cookies and stuff, but we got to dive into episode 4. Welcome to Hope Valley.
Casey, I think that we need to rename this episode
to
Stringent Mothers.
Oof.
Okay, well, funny you say that because I was actually gonna go there.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So one thing that struck me about this episode starting off is the theme of, well, I didn't use the word stringent. I wrote overprotective moms.
Difference.
Well, between Minnie Canfield and Susanna Tom, who is Leland Coulter's sister, we have Minnie and Susanna and their daughters. Mm-hmm. Both of their daughters are also they want to be free. And it's kind of a unique thing because they want to be free in their own ways. We find out that Angela is blind, and she wants to make friends, and she wants to meet people, and
she wants to experience life.
Yeah.
I mean, she's cooped up in that little house, and the only way that she can escape those 4 walls, wherever those 4 walls are, is her music.
Yeah. And then we have Rachel, who grew up very, very, very sheltered, and her mom is just very strict and just doesn't quite know how to relax a little bit, which we find out a little bit later. It makes sense. Susanna is the oldest child. She lost her youngest brother. She lost Lee for a long time. She was the caretaker for the dad, and I assume also the mom because she's the oldest, and there's just a connection between moms and daughters there. So Susanna even kind of admits that she doesn't really know how to let loose, or she's never had the opportunity to have fun. So I thought it was a very interesting parallel between these two very, very different families in very, very different circumstances, yet tying it all together. And they were the ones we were welcoming into Hope Valley. So there's also that. Do you think that Minnie and Susanna were too overprotective of their daughters?
I would say that yes, although I understand the mentality behind both situations. I would say for Minnie's case, like the last thing you want to see is your child to hurt. Like if the only thing that hurts more than the child themselves hurting is the parent hurting for the child. I truly believe that. And so especially because her daughter is blind and leads such a sheltered life where she can't necessarily navigate things, I think it places such a burden on the parents to go the extra mile, and protect their child. That being said, I understand Angela's desire to have friends her own age, to interact, to go beyond her parents. Her music is stunning. I think we all teared up at that. I don't know who couldn't. And just watching, Elizabeth, when she walked upon that and seeing the expression in her face, I mean, it truly, it couldn't have been more spot on. Like, music does invoke, those emotions, that kind of beauty. But I think especially because, Elizabeth is so proactive and so warm and tender, she really is going to make a breakthrough with this family and make a difference. And I think, as Joseph said, that's why he moved his family to Hope Valley, so that they too can have hope and a fresh start, for sure. And I think in Susanna's case, it struck me at the end, they didn't really highlight this a lot, but when she talked about how it had turned into a factory town, to me, that just kind of gave off the impression, like, very industrial, not somewhere you want to raise your kids. Not necessarily, like, what if her daughter, kept up with the fashion trends and dressed beautifully and then got into trouble, or was, catching the attention of unsavory characters. Like, so they really, I understand, her need to, like, keep her close to her, but also she sees that her daughter needs to spread her wings. And so I think her asking Rosemary and Lee, as crazy as that was, and for me, that was like the highlight of the episode. Rosemary saying just yes, with like zero inhibitions, that made me like full out cry. And I think just because it's like, this is their child, like, whether we realize it or not, this is the beginning of their parenting journey. And we've waited so long to see this. And so this is how it's coming into fruition.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was one thing I will say too about Susanna and Rachel, is the whole factory town situation in the industry. Just knowing, like, Rachel was very, I don't know, her eyes caught, she was checking Jesse out, and she was checking some other people out. It was kind of like,
forward, please.
Yes. And at first I was kind of like, okay, Mom, she's a young girl. She's going to think guys are attractive. She doesn't know Jesse's married. But then when she said that, I was like, oh, and I'm a mom. I have 2 daughters. They're 3 and 5. So I'm not there yet, thank goodness. But I can understand that fear of, like, my daughter is so young and so impressionable and so naive, and she's a beautiful girl. Like, what if she gets into trouble here? At least she knows Hope Valley is it's a safe prairie town where she has lots of family, or she has family where that will, be there for her, that can understand her, that maybe can show her a different perspective. Because from what we know about Rachel, she's very, very, very sheltered. And yeah, you're right. This is going to be the start of Rosemary and Lee's family, which is a unique thing because Rachel is like, what, 16, 17, 18, done with high school?
She just finished high school, but high school wasn't as long back then as it is now. So I would put her at 16. About 16.
16. Yeah. And heaven knows when we were 16. Woo!
Oh my gosh. Hormones. Golly.
Goodness gracious.
My turn?
Yeah.
I think both moms were way too overprotective. And I'm the youngest of 6 children, and I have 5 older brothers. So I know what it looks like.
Wow.
But that being said, I will say that Minnie did a lot of good for Angela. She taught her to play the piano. She taught her to learn, and she's not a dumb child. She has learned things. You can tell she's very articulate. And so she hasn't been kept away from studies the way some people may have done back then because of her blindness. So Minnie has done a lot of good for her. Now she just needs to let go, and she needs to let somebody help Angela take the next step. That was one thing that I so appreciated about Joseph. He held her back. He held Minnie back, kept her from racing to Angela every single time she was about to do something. No, let her be. Let her be.
Yeah.
No, let Coop help her. No, he would not let her be too overprotective. But when he was talking to Elizabeth about it, he didn't badmouth his wife at all. He didn't go against her behind her back. He just explained. Now, Susanna, I'm seriously wondering if she was training Rachel to go to a nunnery. I mean, when you are a 16-year-old girl and your mother puts your napkin in your lap, that's a little much there. And I don't know, just the look behind when she said, "Eyes forward, please," and Lee and Rosemary kind of look at each other behind Rachel's back. That made me laugh so hard.
So funny.
And it's so indicative. It's so indicative of their reaction. And Susanna likes to eat early, thinks it's better for her digestion. And everybody's saying, nobody eats this early. Nobody eats this early.
Yeah.
So I do think that it was the best thing for her to have Rachel live with Lee and Rosemary. I just wonder how she got up the nerve to do it. She hasn't spoken to Lee in 20 years. This is only the third time, because they visited when they were on their trip. So this is the third time that they've seen each other since their estrangement. They spent 3 days together. She yelled at them. And then she says, "Can my daughter come live with you?" I'm like, whoa. I thought she might say, "Stay a few extra weeks, stay the summer," but no, it's live. And how long are we talking? It's just, and the other thing is, if she's graduated high school, that's when she should start making her plans. She should have a coming out to present herself for marriage or start a career, go work in the furniture store, So I'm just thinking that it's a strange time for her to live with Lee and Rosemary, even though it's a factory town and it's much safer and much cleaner there in Hope Valley. I just think it's a strange time.
I kind of wonder for them, and we don't know a whole lot of their backstory with Rachel and Susanna, but Susanna alluded to the fact that she and Rachel are so different, which to me says they fight and bonk heads all the time.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of, we don't know what the dad is like. I assume the dad is probably kind of like Joseph Canfield, like, "Honey, you need to calm it down. Like, it's going to be okay." And I kind of wonder if it maybe it came out like Rachel was like, "Uncle Lee and Aunt Rosie are so much more fun than you," just because we know that Rosemary unwittingly told Rachel how amazing Hollywood was.
The most glamorous city she'd ever been to.
But so I kind of wonder, maybe that's where it kind of
came to
started.
A head.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, these women so love their daughters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not like one of those things where the mother and the daughter, and especially more in Susanna and Rachel's situation, it's not like they butt heads that they hate each other and they can't stand to be around each other. And Susanna's like pulling her hair out, like, "I don't know what to do with this girl. You need to take her." It's more of the fact of like, I love her so much that I feel like I need to make this next step. And And sometimes distance is good. Sometimes distance is good for parents and kids, especially at that. Well, I mean, don't go dropping off your 16-year-old somewhere. That's not what I'm saying. But like when I went off to college, and I did not live at home for 4 years. That was the best thing. That was the best thing for my relationship with my parents.
Yep.
And so
you learn to appreciate them for sure. You realize what you had. Yeah.
Yeah. So really quick, segueing into Rosemary and Lee, and we talked a little bit about them, but I have a question for you all. Do you guys have nephews and nieces? Cammie, I know you do. Okay.
I
so
don't.
Anna, you don't. Okay.
I have 26.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I have a lot of adopted church nephew nieces, if that counts.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I think I've changed every diaper of anyone that's 16 and younger in our church. So there's that. And I count all of them. So let's just say yes, actually.
Yeah.
I'm very many. A plethora.
Do you think Rosemary and Lee are going to have difficulty establishing boundaries between aunt and uncle life, and parental guidance?
Absolutely. Yes. I think it's going to be very hard. First, like, okay, aside from just personal experience with that and like wanting to be the fun aunt and the cool uncle or whatever, I think just already seeing Rosemary's character tendencies and who she is as a person, to just to be lavish and generous. And, you know, that's just who Lee and Rosemary are. They bought, you know, Claire and Jesse a bike, for goodness sake, you know, to like help their marital problems. And then they passed it off as like, oh, thanks for doing such a good job when we were gone. Like, who does that? No one does that. All right, guys. So I think they do already just have this tendency to just be the kindest, sweetest people and good stewards of their money and to share with others.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously they're going to want to bestow that upon their niece, but they're going to quickly realize like, she can't just have everything she wants. And I think maybe having this newfound freedom is going to make her want to spread her wings a little too far, a little too fast, maybe. Mm-hmm. And so there's probably going to be some contention there, which will be very interesting to watch them, you know, grapple with that and see also how they lean on each other in that time period as well.
Mm-hmm. Cammie?
I mean, I know this from personal experience because because I was an aunt when I was 13. That's when my first niece was born. And so when my husband and I got married, we had a whole flock, you know, we had a whole flock of nieces and nephews. Poor man, he was the first one to get married in his family, and I was the last to get married in my family.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, he inherited a lot of nieces and nephews, but I would spend time with my nieces. I would bring them over to my house to our apartment on Sundays after church. Just to spend some time one-on-one with them. I would kind of rotate them off, and you know, I didn't always agree with the choices that my brother and my sister-in-law were making, and so I mean, I really do. I think it's different because she's going to be living with them. Mm-hmm. That's very, very different from caring for somebody for a couple of hours or even a week or so. Mm-hmm. Being in charge of somebody, I think that they're going to start out with a lot of latitude, but then going further, they're going to put their foot down and say, okay, no. But Rachel doesn't seem to be as bratty as I thought she was going to be. You know, she wants to spread her wings, yes, but I don't think she's a troublemaker. Mm-hmm. I don't think she's a troublemaker the way I thought she was in the predictions, if you remember, Casey.
Yeah. I
think that she just wants to have some fun and she just wants to feel alive. And yeah, I don't get the impression that she's a troublemaker. So I think that Lee and Rosemary are going to do a great job of guiding her and acting as parental figures. And if they need to put their foot down, I think they will if it gets too far. But yeah, I don't think there will be too much of a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think they're going to have some issues trying to figure out that line and that boundary, because they're the aunt and uncle.
Right.
I mean, just plain and simple. They're the aunt and uncle. I mean, I know for me, when I met my nephews, they were adopted, a little bit older. And I remember the first time they came to our house, it was like they were visiting. So we were like, they weren't officially adopted or anything. And I was like, I'm Aunt Casey, I'm the cool one.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, do you guys want some cookies? Like, we have all these snacks and stuff. And they were like, sure. And I was like, do you want like 2? Because, like, it's okay. I'm the fun aunt. I can be cool. But then, once they became an established part of our family, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I can't be like cool Aunt Casey feeding my nephews and niece sugar all the time. You got to ask your mom and dad. I'm not your parent, So, I mean, from personal experience, I think they're going to have issues with like trying to find that that balance and those boundaries, especially since she's living with them. But I mean, they're gonna do a great job, and it's gonna stretch them, and we'll see them in ways that we've never seen Rosemary and Lee before. So,
well, and it's very different from caring for little Jack.
Yes, because little Jack does not have a mouth. Like, he does not talk back, unlike teenagers. Just saying.
And he's a boy.
Fair enough.
And he's little. Yeah. And he's little. The biggest thing. He really is little Jack still. It's not having a full
every single aspect is the complete opposite.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. This episode had a lot of heartwarming moments. We see that with the stringent, overprotective mothers who start to melt. And we see that with their daughters who are starting to experience that freedom. We also have a lot of like deep moments. But before we get into the deep moments, can we just talk about Molly and Bill for a hot minute?
Oh my gosh. Okay. This has also been just too long in the making. All right. Like, let's just get that out there. I know. In case you didn't realize, Greeks are very impatient people. All right. So watching these episodes, it's like taking so much out of me. I mean, it's worth it. Don't get me wrong. I'm still here after 8 seasons, but wow.
Italian.
Okay,
I hear you.
So you get it. You totally get
Italian, Irish. So I really hear you.
I just want to say one thing really quick. I love how Molly just owned it once she decided to get that dress, and once she decided she had confidence, she just kept, that momentum of confidence. And no matter what, she was like, I do look wonderful, and I am, and she was just rocking it. And so it was so much more gratifying at the end of the episode when Bill was like, oh, killer dress, Molly. And she's like, oh, $30 well spent. Like, oh, yes, very well spent. Good choice, Molly. Good choice. So.
Oh my goodness. I wasn't sure where it was going when Bill just ignores her in the saloon at first. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, is she going to just like go home? Because we've seen her in different situations where she all of a sudden just clams right up, and then, or with she Carson. Runs out, or with Carson. Even when she embarrassed herself with Lucas's mom. So I wasn't sure. I was like, is this going to be another run? But she was like, nope. Gonna go have dinner with Floyo, who was in the background, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, the other thing is that she said it herself. If there's one thing I learned from Bill, it's the long game with him. I was like, oh, girlfriend. You are in it for the long haul, apparently.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's what we all want. We're all loving this. We're all eating it up. So
it's just so fun. And like you said, Anna, when he just like walks past her in town and he's basically like, that was a killer dress. And she's like, $23 well spent. I was like, $23?
Yes, I couldn't remember how much it was. I knew it was higher than it should have been. Though. And I was proud of her. I was like, you go, girl. Like, you get what you want. She's chasing after it, So,
I Googled it earlier.
Do you want me to look it up really fast?
No, I Googled it earlier.
Oh, okay.
It's about $400 today.
Whoa. I
According
didn't
to
realize it
Google.
was that much. No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So, I
End
hope
game. Wow.
end game. That dress better last for a
Oh my
long
goodness.
time.
Oh my goodness.
It
Well,
better also
and-
grow some arms and do my dishes and laundry for me too.
Yes.
And catch a man for Molly.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and it was such great storytelling too, that it was the dress that Dottie had sent.
Mm-hmm.
It was the
Yes.
dress that Dottie had sent, and then they're carrying it over, which was a great part of the story. And then just letting Rachel shine, because with it just laying out like that, it looked nice,
Mm-hmm.
but it did look bland. And then
it didn't do anything for her figure.
No, it didn't. It didn't do anything for her figure. And then Rachel comes in, adds the necklace, adds the sash, and everybody just went, oh. Yeah. So it was just, it was so cool to let Rachel shine in that moment. And it let Molly shine too.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, for Molly to know, even though it was a split second, for Molly to know that it did catch his eye.
Yes.
That put the spark, because she was resigned. I do look good. I'm hungry. I'm going to eat here anyway with you. But then he says, Molly, that was some dress. And it immediately lights the fire again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think Bill also realizes that Molly is his caliber, in that they both operate in very similar ways. So like when Bill tried to kind of call out Molly and be like, oh, I didn't realize you were interested. And she was like, oh, you misread me. She was like, I mean, I have to be nice to get to know you, but like, don't flatter yourself. Like, total mixed signals, which we all know Bill is king of mixed signals. Oh my gosh. Like, I think he's hit on every woman in Hope Valley at this point. And so I think he just really needs that person who's going to keep him on his toes. And I think Molly has the fire in her to do that. So that's why this is particularly fun to watch.
Yeah.
Bill is also just complex. Like, I think we've all just come to realize he doesn't even know what he wants half the time. He's just trying to like live his life and do his thing. And
the James Bond of Hope Valley.
Yeah.
Literally
smack that gavel.
Exactly. Yeah. He wears all the hats. And so I think he hasn't even been in a position to settle down before. And so I think this is all just so like new to him. But yeah, Molly caught his eye. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the inquiry.
Oh man.
Anna, did you expect the inquiry to go the way it went? Like, did you, because I heard a lot of speculation. We speculated ourselves. We heard this was going to be about the shooting. This is going to be about Fort Clay. This is going to be about the adoption. This is going to be about Allie's father. This is going to be about the Jenny shooting the guy, the Mountie. There are lots of speculations out there. So where did you fall? And then did that live up to your expectation?
I was really just trying to keep like an open mind and not have speculations. Cause when I do that, I get all in a tizzy. So sometimes I'll even like skip weeks of watching and watch 2 back to back. Cause I can't do the week to week suspense. That's just not how I'm wired.
Oh, smart.
But the inquiry was really interesting in that, my primary concern was just his niece. Like, I was just really hoping that like, no matter what it ended up being, it wouldn't affect her, which thankfully, obviously it didn't. And she played a crucial role in it, happening that way. The fact I was very surprised in that it clearly was like, there was some sort of bad blood. I didn't expect that. I expected there to be some more like solid grounds for whatever it was going to be based on, so that was really kind of disappointing. And I think Bill obviously voiced that as well. He was like, like we're Mounties, we're trained professionals. Literally, like, our job is to serve others. Why would we tear each other apart? So I would still kind of like to know the backstory. And like, they did tell us kind of what happened, that he disobeyed orders and stuff. But I feel like there's something more that we didn't get. And I wonder if that will surface later on, or if that's just kind of, that's the end of that, and you close the door and you'll always just kind of wonder, which is also very plausible. But there's definitely room to grow that plot for sure, because you just kind of wonder, like, why so much bad blood? Like, clearly he had best intentions in everything he's done. And so, yeah, but I would love to hear briefly what you thought was going to happen with the inquiry. Well,
Cammie?
Okay, so my first thought, he disobeyed one lousy order. That's your problem? Yeah. I just was like, that's your problem with him? He kept them from escaping and arrested all of them? And I mean, I think if we go a little deeper, it's going to be that maybe he showed him up, or that Nathan showed Andrew up or something like that. And he's just, give a person a little bit of power and they go haywire on you. Yeah. But that was my first thought. Just, that's it. Seriously. As powerful as Allie's speech was, I did not think that Hargrave would cave just because of Allie's speech. I thought it was going to be the panel. I thought Sam from season 1, so glad they brought him back. I thought Sam would, and the other two would be touched. And also everybody there knows who Elizabeth Thornton is. And even if Andrew didn't know her face, Allie said her name. And so I'm wondering if it kind of helped things, because this is something I was talking to one of my friends about. And she said, did it help things that if Elizabeth Thornton thinks that he's a good man, then maybe we should drop it. But I thought if Hargrave was going to have such a vendetta, I thought that the panel would say this investigation is closed, and he would try to rebuff it. He would try to object to that among the other objections.
Also, just the fact that it all fell on Hargrave, though, that was just so, like, I don't know if that's how things normally work, but to me, I was like, you would have thought like maybe the panel would have like weighed in, or like,
like a jury or something.
And I was like, oh, Hargrave, like, what do you think? And I'm like, don't ask him, we know what he thinks. He's the one who's doing this whole thing. Like, the superintendent does not get to decide this. That's why the panel is
biased.
there. Yes.
So I thought that he was going to be made to give in by the panel, because the panel would have been touched by Allie and then would have said, this case is closed. He would object and they would say, Superintendent Hargrave, it's closed. That kind of thing. That's how I pictured it going. And so I was surprised. Like, you've got a vendetta against this man, and then you're going to listen to one girl's sob story. Well, maybe there is a heart inside that tin man.
And I will say that was a very compelling performance that Jada Miller put on for Allie. That was very beautiful.
Yeah.
Can we pause right here? Okay, if you are listening and you are from the Young Entertainer Awards up in Canada, the Joey Awards or whatever, Jada Lily Miller is your girl for 2021 because, oh my goodness, that girl, for being so young, she's so talented. And I was like, my eyes welled up at her performance because she just did such an amazing job bringing out that emotion, really stepping into Allie's shoes. Because sometimes kids, when they're, and even young, like teenagers, sometimes they it's too much or it's not enough.
Yep.
But she was perfection. Like,
it
Give her an Emmy. Give her an Emmy.
It reminded me of when Javen did the scene of Robert talking to Elizabeth about becoming a Mountie. It was just a way that we had never seen him. And this is a way that we have never seen Allie. Mm-hmm. It's stretching them. It's expanding their skills.
Yeah.
And did you guys see the Deidre Behar Entertainment Tonight interview? And so she said that she watched a lot of sad TikToks to get her in the mindset and then let the acting take over. She said, the tears were streaming and I had snot all over my face. It was hysterical.
So sweet.
So fun.
She's very, very gifted though, from a very young age. It'll be fantastic to watch her grow. That's probably the most fun thing, especially when you're going on 8 seasons strong. Just not only you growing that connection, but you can see the cast being bonded together and watching these kids grow up into teens now. And it's just so fantastic.
Yeah. Super, super awesome. All right. I do have a burning question about Nathan.
All right.
What is Nathan hiding? Because Hargreaves was the commanding officer at Fort Clay. He also seems to have a grudge, which we've established. He says there's more to the Fort Clay story than meets the eye. And I believe him, to be honest with you.
Find out what?
Nathan has said now 4 times throughout since season 6. He said it twice. He said to Elizabeth that he did not meet Jack. He told Bill he didn't know Jack, didn't meet him. He told Lee in season 6. He told Elizabeth, I never served with your late husband. 4 times. And I'm not gonna lie, you all know Nathan has my heart here. However, I'm a little shook. I'm getting nervous for our Mountie. I'm kind of like, oh, what are you hiding? You're driving me crazy.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe he never physically met Jack. He's not lying, but maybe he's lying by omission. He never met Jack and he never served with him, but maybe they were this close, there's got to be something where I feel like they're involved and there's a thread there. And maybe that's why Nathan hasn't pursued. And it took him this long to get to the point where he had the guts to go after Elizabeth, because he was like, I'm going to lose her, and so now he's going for it. But he also has this thing that he needs to unload. Mm-hmm. And so, especially because he never was forthright with her and telling her that he served there, there's just, they're definitely setting the stage for something more. I really hope we get to see it. And I really hope it lives up to expectation, because I'm super excited. I'm super anxious, but I'm also super excited because I feel like it's going to be one of those where you're like, so we'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be like the I love you moment. Our minds are going to blow.
Oh my gosh. I love you.
I know.
We're not there.
I just don't like feeling like I feel like I'm being set up with Nathan's character. I don't like the fact that I'm questioning his character at this moment. I've had lots of friends tell me it's going to be fine, Casey, but I'm like, you know what? John Tanker has really flipped the tables on me this season, and I am not putting past anything. But my thing is, I'm kind of wondering now if his suspension was the reason why Jack was brought to Fort Clay. Because if you remember, it was a very short thing. It was only supposed to be for 2 months. That would also serve never met Jack, never served with him, but then also having the survivor's guilt and the PTSD. Because then
should have been him.
Should have been him.
Wow.
And he asked for a transfer after the whole suspension from Fort Clay.
I think you got it.
My theory changes every week.
No, I think that's it. I think that's the one. Wow.
Well, we've talked about that a lot, and it keeps coming back to that, doesn't it?
It just keeps evolving.
It keeps evolving, but it keeps coming back to it. It was probably his assignment that either he turned it down, or now with this new information, maybe he was suspended. And so Jack came and took the assignment. And so it should have been him. And
I think you guys have got it. Brian Bird, if you're listening, Casey and Cammie can be associate authors for the upcoming seasons. I think they understand how your plots work now. So
well, thank you, Anna.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. Wow. I honestly, like I said, I can't think too much into things or I'll just get obsessed.
Drive yourself
so I really
crazy.
have tried to I'll literally think myself into a tizzy. So I've tried to step back from this and be like, okay, so I know there's something there and I really want to know what, so I'm not going to think about it. But that makes sense, especially the survivors go, wow.
Oh, please. I just don't like feeling like Nathan's about to betray us all. Like that's just my feeling when I was like,
Hey, Rosemary stood up for him. I was so glad that she did that. Maybe he thought the reminder would be too painful. And of course, Elizabeth rebutted. I just wonder what else he's not telling me. Of course, that's what we're all wondering.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm sorry. Also, in Nathan's defense, when Nathan literally is bearing his heart and soul and accidentally telling people he loves them, and then she's going up to Lucas and being like, so I'm not seeing Nathan. I'm like, okay, like, what do you want from the man? Like, how is he going to be transparent with you if you're just like, okay, Lucas, like, let's just give this a shot, even though this guy literally just professed his love for me and said he would give up his occupation. I don't know. Anyway, but I'm not salty. I'm fine.
Casey, I think we better go there. She just opened the door.
Yes, you just opened the door. Okay, so Lucas, first of all, when she walks in the library and he's like dead asleep on the table, my daughter, my 3-year-old's like, Mama, why is he asleep? And I was like, oh, he's just so tired. She's like, but why is he asleep with all the books? And I'm like, I don't know, but doesn't he just look so sad? I have lots of Team Lucas people in my family. I just want to let you all know, even my 5-year-old will just say, but look at Lucas. They're in love. They're in true love.
Oh my gosh.
It's great.
But here's my question. He was in the office robbing Peter to save Paul, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did he sleepwalk? He said he was in his office figuring out how to pay for the damages. How did he get from his office to the library? What? And then he fell asleep there. How did that happen? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know. Maybe he just needed to research something in the library that
Maybe
had to
he did.
do with oil and nitroglycerin. I don't know, but I mean, the last time we saw Elizabeth and Lucas, things did not end well with them.
No, and it was awkward. It was awkward that morning.
It definitely was awkward.
Yeah.
But I will say, I don't blame Elizabeth for being a little cooler, a little hurt, because he did have some fighting words with her. But at the same time, I appreciated that Lucas did not immediately try to make everything okay.
Mm-hmm.
He also didn't make things more awkward. It was already almost a moment of levity because she caught him asleep. And that's kind of like a throwback to season 1 when the kids find Elizabeth asleep at the saloon with the paper. Because she was also researching stuff too. So that was kind of a fun little parallel there.
Well, and interesting. I'm skipping to the end really quick, but we were talking about the ambiguous it. What would you know about it? And he clarifies. He says, I never should have said that you knew nothing about love. I'm like, oh man. He came right out and admitted, which was very big of him. But his meaning was that she knew nothing about love. And, I have to say, neither he nor Nathan saw her with Jack. They have not seen that side of her. who is a woman who feels deeply in her heart and does know the true meaning of love. They just see somebody who has been widowed trying to reemerge into life and is having a huge struggle with it. So I can still understand why he would say it, but still I just thought, that was a very bold declaration, but thank heavens he was apologizing for it, which was very, very big of him.
For sure.
Yeah. And, going back to the beginning, he held the door open for it, even though he was disheveled and it was their first meeting since that very angry encounter. And he was holding the door open for her. He was holding the saddlebag open for her. He was trying to make amends while still giving her a little bit of breathing room. He wasn't going to lay it all out on the table.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very gentlemanly of him. And they, obviously things progressed.
And you know what, in that moment, it was almost kind of like when he sees the two Mounties coming into town, there's almost this slight concern for what's going on with Nathan. And I thought that was also an interesting choice for the writers to put in there because, I mean, I'm gonna be straight up and just say we've pitted ourselves against each other with this whole Team Nathan, Team Lucas thing, right?
Right.
It's just become this like crazy battle between like, I don't know, everybody's drawn their line in the sand. But I feel like we are beginning to like they're writing it in such a way to drive the two guys together to become friends. We see the fact that they, Nathan and Lucas help each other during the fire at the oil derricks. We see Lucas's concern for Nathan and what might be going on with that situation.
The $1,000.
We see the $1,000.
$1,000 was huge. Yeah.
I mean, we see all these little things to kind of set them up for a amazing bromance, if you will.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I really appreciate that. I appreciate that we're opening this door for friendship between Lucas and Nathan, despite whatever happens with their love life. And I think another thing too, just taking a step back from my preference and whatever, for me, I've really come to realize that the triangle is three people. We've been so focused on Elizabeth. But then I was like, wait a second. But, obviously I'm like, oh, there's also Nathan. I don't want to see him hurt. But now I'm also seeing too, like, what about Lucas? We don't want to see Lucas get hurt. We don't want to see him like be crushed and have his heart broken either, because how I'm feeling now about Nathan and my apprehension towards him is how I felt about Lucas early on in season 6 and 7 a little bit. I was kind of questioning his motives, like, why is he being so nice to Elizabeth? Like, what is going on here? So it's interesting too that I've also flip-flopped my perspective, my opinion, because I mean, so far, with the exception of Lucas blowing up at Elizabeth last episode, Lucas has kind of much won it for me. I'm kind of like, okay, I see you. I see that. I can accept that. I can accept if Elizabeth and Lucas make a match, and that's it, because he genuinely is a very nice guy, lavish, but nice. He'll be kind, generous, deep.
We don't really think about this, but he is very deep feeling.
Oh, for sure.
He showed that in the last episode, that he feels very deeply, which is something that I don't think we really considered before, because he was always so calm and cool. So he had to let things loose a little bit to show that he is human.
Yeah.
So.
And I would also say, I think Nathan feels deeply, but he's wounded. And I think Lucas feels deeply, but he's been stifled. And as evidenced by, we now see what his childhood was kind of like in his upbringing. Yep. And Elizabeth said it best. She was like, I don't know where he came from. She even says it. She's like, I've met Lucas's mom and I have no idea where he came from. He really, or Lucas, as he said, like, my mom taught me how to read. But, because Elizabeth was like, oh, well, did your mom show you this specific book? He's like, no, my mom taught me how to read. And from there on, it was all me. So he's kind of had to form himself and grow up almost orphaned in a sense emotionally, and I think that can cause you to have deeper feelings and be really in tune with who you are as a person. And so it's really fantastic that the writers are creating complex characters for us, and so that we can love and hate different aspects of them. That's what life is. We're all, we're very dynamic people. You can't just have static plot lines, because you can't last for 8 seasons if you're if it's going to be boring and just love triangles. So it's what you said. I love that we do, in the end, no matter how this plays out, like, everyone's going to win in some way. I have full faith in that. It might hurt, it might sting, but it'll all work out for sure.
Yeah.
So are we going to that end with Lucas?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
May I just do a disclaimer?
Go ahead.
She said, I told Nathan that we're not going to see each other anymore. You never saw each other romantically. You kept on canceling. You kept on backing out. But putting that aside.
Yeah, Nathan really didn't get a fair shot. But that's why I think he might still. I feel like I don't think it's over yet. I think despite her, I don't know, I think she's reacting out of hurt right now, and probably out of anxiety and a little bit of wariness because of the unknown regarding foreplay. But there's more to that story. For sure.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. But Elizabeth takes the first step. She takes her own advice. She makes the move.
I was proud of her. She did it. She reached out, which is something that she has not done.
Ever.
Not really.
Pretty much ever.
Ever. Because
not romantically.
No.
Not romantically, at least.
Because with Jack, it was this, I'm going to prove to you that I can do it. I am not a princess. And so you had that angst and that back and forth where she was just trying to constantly prove to herself to Jack. And then all of a sudden they were falling in love mutually. And then it was like this push and pull and all of that. But with this is such a different situation where, because she was widowed, she kind of had to she had to open that door.
She had to make the call.
She did. She had to make the call. Okay. I know I'm in the minority of people who are like the Team Nathan shippers, but I have to say, please don't throw tomatoes at me, but I'm really excited about the dates.
I want to see the dates. I want her to see
horseback riding. Like in the morning, I need more romance in Hope Valley.
And we haven't had that because there's been so much angst. So it might be nice to see courting for a change.
Yes.
And yes, I do want to see Nathan and Elizabeth go on an actual date, but that's not going to happen right now. And that's okay, because we get to see a little bit more of the Lucas and Elizabeth relationship play out. And can I just say how unassuming it was of Lucas when she said, I told Nathan that we weren't going to be seeing each other anymore. He didn't just jump right in and say, hallelujah, let's go.
Yes. He says, so what does that mean for us?
He said, what does that mean for us? That was so sweet.
And you can tell he was so nervous even asking.
I'm sorry,
and like that.
What?
The little sparkle of like hope in his eye that you just were like, oh, the anticipation was just like, wait, so like, what does that mean for us? Like he was almost like scared to ask, but he was like so funny, but like controlling himself like a gentleman. Yes. And that's why, like I said, like no matter who wins in the end, they're both worthy. Like they both, they're both just good men. We need Hope Valley men in the real world. There are. Don't get me wrong, but more.
Casey's already said, if she was single, whoever Elizabeth doesn't want, I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean,
I may have, at least thought that if I haven't said it out loud.
Yeah, this really, and again, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see more romance. I'm excited to see a Lucas and Elizabeth on these dates. And the reason being is because we will see if you don't understand the Lucas and Elizabeth relationship, this should open your eyes as to what Elizabeth sees in Lucas.
It's going to give all of us a chance to see what their relationship is like.
Yes. And what does she see in him? What are their similarities? What's drawing her towards him? And I think that's something that, regardless what you think and your biases, I think you just need to put that away and just watch it for what it is. Because I think it'll become very clear where Elizabeth's heart is when she is dating Lucas.
And just have fun.
Yeah, just have fun. Just enjoy the levity. We haven't seen Elizabeth on a date since season 5.
That's a matter of opinion.
Of what you define as a date.
Not a date.
No, yeah. Season 5. I'm talking about, okay, never mind. Sorry, I was thinking about Jack.
No. I agree. I know what you mean. And Jack, for example, canoe rides and spiders and falling into each other's arms. That is, I remember that from, what was that? Season
1?
Season 1, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But that stuff sticks with you. We do want to see more of that. Or even just those gestures that mean, I think probably one of the most out of all 8 seasons touching moments for me was the cross-stitch pillow that she made for Jack with "Love is patient, love is kind," and then how their rings had that embroidered on, or engraved. Oh my gosh. That to me, to this day, sometimes I'm just oh, love is patient, love is kind, it sticks. And so I would love to see those small gestures that are actually super profound gestures come out in these men as they pursue her, and just see what they're really made of and what's deep down in there. Because I feel we know Lucas definitely has it in him because he is a deep feeler. And I think Nathan does too, just in a different way. So I just love to see that come into play now. She finally is letting them court her.
Yes. I think my biggest nervousness now is because, we don't want to count our chickens before they've hatched. We're only on episode 5 coming up. We're in season 5. We know that from the preview, she's going to be dating Lucas for at least the next 2 episodes. So, I mean, as much as I would love to say, hey, we've wrapped this up. She's chosen Lucas. We're going to see them in love the rest of the season. I can't say that because we still have so much more to go. This is a season of 12 episodes. My biggest
8 episodes left. So
my biggest nervousness is seeing if she decides she's going to not pursue Lucas any further, is her breaking his heart. I don't want to see that. And that just makes me it just makes me nervous. I know Hallmark's going to do they'll do a good job about making sure that everything will be tied up, and that whatever guy that doesn't, whoever Elizabeth doesn't choose, they're going to be a champ about it. That's what Aaron said. But I still can't help but feel okay, they don't have, you don't have to have Elizabeth. You can have somebody else.
You know what though? And okay, so again, counting chickens before they hatch, but this has been on my mind since this character came into play. Fiona has a lot to bring to the table and to offer. And I feel she has almost this, not an edge, but this fire, and she's a forward thinker. She's an innovator, and Lucas is very much an innovator. And I think I would love to see that happen. And he did just go to the barbershop. He did pay her $5. He did say he would come back. She did say he is just, the sweetest thing. So I definitely could see where the writers are slowly setting us up for maybe a slow transition if he's not the one who's picked. And that's a big counting the chickens. What
about poor Hickam.
Oh, but Hickam, you're right. You're right.
There's also Hickam.
There's also Hickam. You know what? Hickam just needs to marry Elizabeth. Let's just end this whole thing. They've both been there since day one. He deserves her. He served the town.
Hey, that's what Kevin says. He said, I've been on Team Hickam since day one.
Me too. I didn't even know he said that. See, Kevin and I are just on a whole wavelength.
Absolutely.
Plot twist. Elizabeth chooses no one. She chooses Hickam.
Yeah, she chooses
Michael,
Hickam.
it's been you all this time.
It was always you.
Yes.
Yes. I actually just watched that last night, finally. That
was a cute movie. Super cute movie.
I'm surprised you didn't say this. Can we talk about the fact that Anne of Green Gables was in this episode?
Okay, yes, we can. Sorry.
Only Casey's favorite. One of mine.
But have you read Anne of the Island?
I have not read Anne of the Island. I've read Anne of Green Gables.
Okay, you need to read, if you're an Anne of Green Gables fan and you've only watched the 1985 version, or if you only ever watched Anne with an E, you need to read the books.
1987. Yeah.
Read the books. Read the books. One of the books that Elizabeth gives to Angela Canfield is the book Anne of the Island, which is actually my favorite book ever.
You're what?
I'm just saying, I am sad that is not a movie. Somebody needs to develop it into a good movie. I have to think about how I have to say this.
Do you think there's a metaphor in there somewhere?
That's a great question, Cammie, because you know us and our speculation of books.
Indeed.
Our crazy speculations. If you've been here since our beginning recaps, you know we like to speculate on all the little rabbits and turtles and books and stuff. And you know what? They might mean nothing, and that's fine. Yeah. We like to speculate about it. Let me share a little bit about Anne of the Island for those of you who've only ever seen the 1985 version. In Anne of the Island, Anne is proposed to 5 times. And
I didn't know it was that many.
Wow. Oh yeah. When we get off of here, I will tell you all 5. But she's proposed to 5 times, one of them being Gilbert, her arch nemesis turned best friend turned. He's in love with her. He's desperately in love with her. And he proposes to her and she rejects him because she can't give him what he wants. She goes off to Redmond College and she meets her ideal man, Roy Gardner, tall, dark, handsome, melancholy, brooding. Poetic, brooding. He is the real deal. He's also very well established. He comes from good stock and he comes from a well-to-do family and everything. The Gardners. And they date. And one thing that happens is that relationship, Anne realizes after a couple years of dating him that he is her ideal, but that is not where her heart is leading. And there's also a few things that happen in the book, including how both guys show a certain gesture. Gilbert is more sentimental. He knows Anne. He knows how practical she can be. Roy, like I said, good breeding, wonderful guy. He treats her like a queen and he provides lavish things, gifts, etc. And we all know what happens at the end of Anne of Green Gables because, you know, Anne and Gilbert. So I'll leave you with that. I don't know if that's a parallel, but
I guess only time will tell.
Okay, Brian Bird, hire them. Okay, like they're coming up with things that you didn't even come up with. They're finding subplots that aren't supposed to be there, but they're so good. Yes, go ahead. Send in your resumes, ladies. I'll put in a good word for you. We're friends on Facebook. I'm sure he'll take me very seriously.
And
I've written several fan fictions that I've posted on my blog. So
that's awesome.
I will say, I got to give a shout out to Laura Lynn and Tara. Laura Lynn did a blog post on her blog, and she references the Anna of the Island portion of it. And Tara was actually the one who wrote that. So they actually caught it before I did, really, because I was just so stuck into the show. And I'm like, okay, yeah, Anna of the Island, yay! They mentioned my favorite book, and then kept going on. So I mean,
oh, you did? I'm surprised.
I haven't had much time. Daylight savings has really messed my brain up too.
That's
so
true.
I've just kind of been going on like not a lot of sleep and a whole lot of coffee. So, and with that, Hearties, we hope you have enjoyed our episode today. Let us know what you think. Anna, where can people find you? And if you want to shout out your bakery so that we can stop by and get a tasty treat, feel free to do so.
If you happen to be in North Carolina.
If you're in North Carolina, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, or you can find us on Instagram at To Your Health Bakery or on Facebook at To Your Health Bakery. That's pretty much all I got going for me. It's To Your Health Bakery. Hope to see you all here.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. It was
such a fun, great time talking.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, Hearties. See you next week.
Bye, guys. See you next week. We'll see what happens.
Oh, yeah.